The UFC 315 preview show is live. I haven't done one of these live recordings in a while, so we could have been standing looking at that for about 10 seconds there. But my name is Sean Sheehan, and I am joined today by Ian O'Neill, all the way over in the host city of UFC 315, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Ian, you had a busy media day today. How are things? Are you good? Was it a good day?
It was a great day. Anytime I can be in the mix here for a big UFC event, I'll always kind of never take it for granted, as the lad says. It's been a long day. We've been going. What time is it here now? 7:00. I've been going since about 8:00 this morning. So, hectic. 14 people today was out for the media day, so very little time, as you know yourself from covering live events, to do anything. So it's nice to kind of be here with you now and we recap it. And it was great to hear from all the fighters today, and I'm looking forward to the card overall.
Who stood out for you today? Like I didn't get a chance to listen to them all because I was doing a bit of editing in the background. And I actually put them all up on Patreon as well, so people will be able to listen to the audio here. I listened to all of Ian's one, listened to a bit of Jack, listened to a bit of Bilal. Who stood out for you, Ian? Was there anyone who kind of got you up for the fight, or brought you down for the fight, or anything? What was the standout from today?
Strangely enough, and I'm going to say the energy that Ian Gary can bring to a room. Amazing. He was good, and it's unbelievable. It's the first time I've been in his presence, and he came in, and he brings the energy and he brings the presence, and it was definitely there. Other standout ones for me today. Do you know who really stood out to me? Who I had the chance, I believe, to talk to her before at media days, but Jessica Andrade really looks in great condition and in good spirits ahead of this fight as well. Obviously, she's up there against Jazz the Vicious in the co-main event and the main event. Bilal Muhammad, Bilal, as he does, always kind of comes across as he has a point to prove, and he definitely does. He probably hasn't had the respect that I think that he deserves from the fans and everything like that. He's the type of guy that always had a chip on his shoulder, still has the chip on his shoulder as well, now that he is the champion. Jack Della Maddalena, cool as a breeze. Very monotone, never getting high, never getting too low. Hard to get a read on where he's at. He seems very, very relaxed, cool, calm, and composed ahead of the biggest moment of his life as well, coming in to take on Bilal Muhammad. Valentina Shevchenko, she feels ready. She said that she's ready. And Manon Fiorot obviously coming in with a big point to prove as well, and a huge opportunity for her. So, all comes to all, it was a great media day, and a lot of fighters are coming in here ready. I'm looking forward to it, as I said at the start of the podcast.
Yeah, I tell a lie, actually. I watched a bit of the Fiorot one as well, and she did seem very relaxed. And I suppose she is a sort of relaxed person from what I've seen of her before, but she did definitely seem very relaxed then, which is not always the case for someone going in. Like, I thought one of the things I talked about earlier on, do we talk about that one? We'll talk about it more in a minute maybe, is the fact that she has had such a small amount of high-level fights in terms of in front of the big lights. So I think she's only had one fight on a pay-per-view, and that was opening up the pay-per-view, whereas a lot of people have a good few of those fights before they get to a position to fight someone like Valentina Shevchenko, has one of the greatest of all time. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. Let's get to Bilal and Jack Della Maddalena first. Do you feel like Ian Gary's presence is changing anything for them, or are they completely focused on that? Because, like, if that was me and I'm preparing for something massive, and there's someone behind me with a banana peel or a packet of M&Ms, like Ian Gary was, and his son,
or a child.
Exactly. Do you feel like there's any of that? Were they asked about that in media, or is there any bit of Ian Gary shadow over them?
They're definitely. I think both guys were asked that as well, and I have to give credit, like, not giving credit to Bilal. I think Bilal says it as it is, and he's very respectful of Ian Gary. He believes that he's doing the right thing by being here and putting himself into the mix as well. Now, Bilal says it's not distracting him. His kind of focus is strictly on this main event fight with Jack Della Maddalena. And, for Jack Della Maddalena, what he has said is that he's tried to avoid Ian Gary. So maybe, he's been honest as well. So to say that Ian is not mixing it up here, creating a distraction, that would be lies. He definitely is. And when Ian was asked that himself, he definitely said that he's definitely distracting both guys, and that's what he wants to do as well. In certain ways, you know, with all due respect to Bilal and Jack Della Maddalena, I feel that Ian has made this event bigger and has made this fight bigger with his presence. And, you know, he spoke today about, you know, getting prepared to fight, and that's what he loves to do. But he's getting himself to the dance here, and he's putting on his dancing shoes. He ain't going to the dance floor, though, if both of these guys weigh in. And, you know, if history speaks for itself, you know, Bilal doesn't miss weight, Jack Della Maddalena doesn't miss weight. But I think they both can respect what Ian Garry is doing. And, you know, the fact that he had written into his contract that he was going to be the backup for this fighter, and he's just going throwing himself headfirst into content, and brought the energy today at the media day. So he's ticking off a lot of boxes, and maybe ticking off Bilal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena by doing so as well.
It's interesting though. I wonder does Ian actually want them to fall on a banana skin here, because it was a tough fight enough a couple of weeks ago, like, and he has had no time to prepare and all of that.
He looks good. He's walking around clean. His face looks good, but you know, I mean, there's obviously he's not going to be fighting there 100%, Shawnee.
No. And I only talked to him a couple of days ago, and he's improved an awful lot facially and everything since that. But look, as you said, respect to Bilal and Jack. Let's talk about them. And if we have to do a breaking news podcast, we will do it. I think it's what you said about the respect for Bilal. I think is something I wanted to start off with and talk about here. Like, looking at Bilal's record versus Jack Della's record. So Bilal, in his last few fights, beat Leon Edwards, Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady, Vicente Luque, Wonderboy Thompson, and Damian Maia, all the way back to that no contest with Leon Edwards. And for Jack Della, he's beat Gilbert Burns, Kevin Holland, Basil Hafez in a split decision, Kevin Holland in a split decision, and Randy Brown, we're talking about in the last few. They just don't compare, do they, really? Like, and a lot of people are giving a lot of props to Jack coming in here and kind of tearing Bilal down, as seems to happen. But Bilal really has proven it, Ian, at a way higher level than Jack, and is the big favorite here, and I think probably should be. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And time again, he has proved it, Shawnee. Like, I was looking at his record today, and his last defeat was to Jeff Neal by unanimous decision back in 2019. Obviously, he had that no contest with Leon Edwards with the eye poke. But he hasn't been defeated since 2019, and he's gone through a good level of competition during that time as well. You know, I asked him personally today, I was like, well, you know, through his rise, and you know, he was very willing and open and wanting to tell the media today that, you know, he's earned this, and he has earned it. And I asked him, was there a particular moment in time where something clicked, or on that journey since 2019, was there any particular moment in time that kind of, you know, he felt that, you know, he needed or he did something to get to an elite level status to get himself to the top of the mountain? And he highlighted the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight, a fight that he won by unanimous decision, where he kind of proved to himself that he does belong with the best in the division. Obviously, that was in 2021. It was a different Stephen Wonderboy Thompson than what we're seeing in this day and age, of course. But, you know, he springboarded from that win and beat Vicente Luque, picked up a great win over Sean Brady, Gilbert Burns, and obviously won the title in the rematch against Leon Edwards. So, you know, he has really highlighted and wanted to kind of get the message today that, you know, he knows that he deserves to be in this spot. He wants everybody else to kind of realize that too. And, you know, I think people are starting to realize, but you got to go out there and you got to stay winning. You definitely got to be, you know, looking on paper, beating a guy like Jack Della Maddalena. He's talking about not wanting to wrestle. He wants to kind of use his hands and kind of beat Jack Della Maddalena at his own game. That's what the great fighters do. They beat guys at their own game. And I'm very interested to see if he actually sticks true to his word on Saturday night.
I wouldn't necessarily believe that, but what I would say, I don't think he will do it, but I think he can do it. Like, I think people underestimate Bilal on the feet. You know, he's had some good performances on the feet in the last couple of fights and is well able to fight guys on the feet. And I don't think he'll have any big fear of standing with Jack. Now, will he want to stand with him for the whole fight? Will he want to put himself into certain positions? Absolutely not. But I think he can win the fight on the feet if he fights the right way, or he can certainly be competitive there. I wonder, is the question at the other side of it, can Jack be competitive with Bilal if the fight hits the ground? And not just if the fight hits the ground, if Bilal continually takes him down. Because, you know, speaking to Ian Garry last week, look at that fight against Carlos Prates. Continually took him down over and over, took away the gas tank a little bit of Prates, just changed the fight, didn't let him get into a rhythm. And okay, Ian himself got tired in the end, but Ian was on short notice, as we know. And that's not the case here for Bilal. We know Jack is short notice, but not really short notice. He's known about this for a couple of months now at this stage. So I don't know, could you class it as short notice? I would say not. I would wonder how much preparation, not how much preparation, but how well the preparation for Jack to deal with that wrestling of Belal has been, and how adjusted will his striking game be to deal with that wrestling, or to put himself in like we used to see olden days before, someone, showing the uppercut, showing the knee all the time. I'm not saying we're going to get much of that, but if we don't get a Jack Della Maddalena that can look like Jack Della Maddalena with his lovely jab and his lovely counters, and his lovely combinations, I think it's going to be real hard for him to be competitive or win this fight. Do you think, Ian, there is a world where, look, the world, I suppose, is if Jack puts on a phenomenal performance and wins, but like, can he go in and fight Belal at Jack's own game? Is that a possibility in this fight?
I really don't know the answer to that question. I think it's something that we're going to find out, because, we haven't seen Jack tested for a prolonged period of time against elite level opponents. I think that factor, mixed with the factor of Belal Muhammad's style and what he brings to the table here, is that historically, when we see a guy who's smooth and wants to attack with his hands come up against a grapple heavier wrestler, they can kind of shell up, and they can be afraid to throw their shots. They can be afraid to overcommit, and that ultimately leads to their downfall as well. I think if you look at the Gilbert Burns fight, he was able to kind of get back up from those positions when he did get taken down by Gilbert Burns and create those scrambles. But it begs the question, Seanie, is he going to be able to do that against a guy like Belal Muhammad, who, when he does get the fight down, is very dominant, doesn't waste or give away any of those kind of positions, and also looks to land damage as well. So it's going to be a test of heart, durability, I think, for Jack Della Maddalena. And I think the early tests in this fight, look, if Belal does what he says he does, and you don't believe him, I don't believe him too, but if he does go out there and do that, I think it could be a little bit foolhardy, because what you're going to do is maybe give Jack Della Maddalena a little bit of false confidence and to go out there and get a little bit more looser. But maybe Belal will want to do that at the start of the fight to kind of encourage Jack to open up and then shoot for the takedown after that. And it's very interesting. I think how this fight is going to play out is really based off how Belal Muhammad approaches the fight and game plans for this fight. And I'm excited to see, how Jack can respond to that, because that's really what we're looking for here, is the response.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, and that's the key, like the rhythm of Jack Della. Like, if he does get into a rhythm, like, he needs to do that to win, but it also puts himself in a position where, as as you were talking about, if he is comfortable, that's where Belal will take you down. So it's a real catch-22, and I suppose that, you said we'll find out on Saturday night, and we really will find out on Saturday night if Jack Della can produce his game in a fight with Belal. We know what Belal can do. We know what Belal will try to do. He will try to be well-rounded, and he will try to impose his will. But there's a difference between imposing a will and imposing a skill set. Skill set, you know what I mean? Like, it's not to say that Belal hasn't a good skill set, or imposing his will isn't done with a skill set, but Jack's skill set is more complementary, I suppose, to the Chris Eubank type of beautiful, posh type of striking that we would like to see. Right, okay, enough of that. Let's move on. I feel like this Valentina Shevchenko Manon Fiorot fight is gone completely and utterly under the radar. Like we talked last year, women's MMA had a real torrid time in 2024, and there's a lot of good fights lined up in 2025, including this one, but there's been very little talk about it, Ian. There's been very little build up to it. A lot of talk about Belal and Jack, and obviously Ian, and obviously, Jose Aldo. We'll talk about him in a second as well. But I feel like this Shevchenko Fiorot fight is a really, really good fight. Like, this could be the end of Valentina Shevchenko's title reign. This could be the end of her not just her title reign, but her time as a title contender in the UFC, one of the greatest of all time, if Fiorot can stand up and beat her here. And that, to me, is a massive fight. Why is no one talking about it? Why is it gone so much under the radar?
It's hard to say. I think it's a fantastic. I think it's the best fight that you can put on in the women's flyweight division right now. I think Manon Fiorot has been crying out for this opportunity for quite some time and thoroughly deserves this opportunity against Valentina Shevchenko. I think part of the reason, Sean, why this fight maybe is going under the radar is because the last couple of years has only seen Valentina Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso fight for the title. And, we've seen that in other divisions before too. It can kind of stale up a division when you have the same fighters fighting over and over again. We've seen it with Max and Volkanovski. We've seen it with Davison Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. We've seen it with Valentino Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso, which spanned for 2 years. I questioned Valentina about that. She was like, oh, it was only a year and a half. I was like, oh, I think it was 2 years or more. But nonetheless, you'd face the same person for a long period of time. And I asked Valentina, was she excited to kind of have a fresh face? And she was like, no, I don't. It's another fight. I don't mind whatsoever. There's a lot of underlying disrespect going on between the two of these women coming in here. I think Manon Fiorot felt disrespected by Valentina Shevchenko for maybe ignoring her after that last win against Grasso. She felt that she should have got her kudos or been at least given a mention as the next contender. And I think Valentina felt disrespected she felt disrespected that Fiorot thought she was disrespected in certain regards. Fiorot's really talking with a little bit of venom coming into this fight. And that seems to be a good bit of cannon fodder for Valentina. She was like, I love hearing my opponents talk like that because I want to prove them wrong. And, I can tell you, you said it about Valentina Shevchenko, and I agree with you. She's coming towards the end of her career right now, but her mentality is still rock solid. And she spoke today, Shawnee, like a woman who's still very hungry to be at the top of her game. But, you can be mentally strong and your body may let you down at this stage of your career as well. I think the ultimate crash is when your mind and your body goes at the same time, but definitely the mental capacity for Valentina Shevchenko today was well on show, and she's well up for this fight. Doesn't care that she's the underdog. Is really kind of wanting to prove people wrong and that she still has it, but she's in for a very, very tough test here against Manon Fiorot, who's, coming up to her prime, not even at her prime yet, but coming up to her prime, and has a very, very long career ahead of her, win or lose on Saturday night.
I'm fascinated by how this fight will look because, the foremost thought of fighting Valentina Shevchenko over the last decade has to be not to strike with her. Don't get involved in a Muay Thai matchup. But that's exactly what Manon Fiorot will want to be doing here. You look at the other side of that then, like, will Shevchenko try to take ground? Shevchenko's took a lot of people down over the last few years. And, before Grasso, with Grasso. But you look at that Fiorot fight against Erin Banchfield, and like we know what Erin wants to do. She wants to take the fight to the ground, and Fiorot just bullied her in that space. Now, is Shevchenko better than Banchfield? I think she is, but like, is that the key to the fight? That part of it, like, is Shevchenko just going to bully her on the feet and win the striking battle? Because not many people have been able to beat Shevchenko in that realm. Very, very few, in fact. Like, everyone seems to think Fiorot can do it. I actually think Fiorot can do it as well. Are we giving a little bit of disrespect to Valentina? But how do you think the fight will go on generally? Because I think this is a very technical fight that maybe that will play out in a different way than everyone is expecting. Maybe.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Why it's so intriguing is that similar, not similar to the main event, but in some ways similar to the main event is that you really don't know what way this fight is going to go, but you can pinpoint the things that are going to turn this fight. But will they happen on the night is yet to be seen. And I think the big key factor here is Valentina's ability to control where the fight goes, because we've seen in previous fights that she can control a fight on the feet. When things aren't going to plan, she has that takedown in her back pocket. Will she be able to get Manon Fiorot down? I think the strength advantage here, based off history and what we've seen, you would think has to go to Manon Fiorot. Will she have the strength to keep Valentina off her all fight? That's yet to be seen. Will Valentina have the strength and the cardio to go up against the stronger woman and try to force that takedown as well? And, with all those factors in there, there's lots of variables there, Sean, and lots of avenues that this fight can go down. And I think that alone makes this fight very, very interesting. And, it's not disrespect to analyze the fight for what it is, but, sometimes you just feel that it's somebody's time. And for me, personally, I just think that this could be Manonfiro's time. And, sometimes, and you could say the same for Valentina Shevchenko. It's like, she's been not maybe performing at the levels that we've once seen. And every dog has their day as well. It's not easy to stay doing what she's doing at the top of the division. And I think she's got a very worthy challenger on Saturday night. And I'm very curious to see if Firo can get over the line and get her hand raised and become the new champion.
Do you know one thing I haven't thought of when we move on after this, because we're very tight for time here, but it just went through my head there as you were speaking. Imagine if Manonfiro standing over and knocked out Valentina Shevchenko. Imagine that.
That'd be some
Imagine
statement.
that. Some statement.
Yeah.
Jose Aldo Jr. against Eamon Zahabi. One of the questions asked to Eamon today was basically like, none of us expected this might happen. Did you? And he was like, not really. No, it's one of those fights. But you know what? I actually kind of like this fight. You liked it from the very start. It took me a while to grow into it, but you're going to be there Saturday night. I actually think this is going to be a good matchup too. Lads will come out and strike, be technical and tactical as well. I've grown to like this fight. And you've liked it from the start, but it'd be great. Look, to be great to see Aldo in person as well, I'm sure.
Oh, it was great to be in the same room as him today, talking about a guy who commands a presence in the room. We spoke about Ian Garry. Jose Aldo is exactly the same. He's been through this time and time again. Very focused on the task at hand. A couple of interesting snippets from the interview. Look, at the end of the day, when you break this fight down, it's number 11 versus number 13 in the world in the bantamweight division here, with Jose Aldo being at number 11, Eamon Zahabi being at number 13. And I think, I've been at Eamon's last couple of fights live, and the level of performances that he's been able to produce, I think he performed excellently against the ever-dangerous Pedro Munoz in his last fight, and he's going to have to up that again. This isn't what it was can be labeled as a fight with an up and comer, but Eamon Zahabi is also 37 years of age as well, so he's coming towards the twilight of his career and needs to make something happen. And if he goes out there and beats Jose Aldo, he will make something happen. He'll shoot into the top 10 of the division. But when you're talking about stylistic matchups, and everyone was giving out about Jose being pulled in there with guys like Batista who wants to clinch and grapple, and Marab who wants to clinch and grapple. I don't think we're going to see any of that from Eamon Zahabi. I think Eamon is going to stand toe-to-toe. And, it's self-admitted that, you have to prepare for all outcomes in this fight. But he's more than willing to go out there and compete against Jose Aldo on the feet. And that alone, for me, I think will make it a very, very interesting fight. For Aldo, the question was asked today. I was going to ask it myself. I didn't have the chance to, but at least somebody else did. They was asking him, he's always fighting down. It feels like he's defending his ranking. And, Aldo said, it is what it is. He didn't really kind of clutch onto the kind of negative talk about the UFC. He said he wants to fight. The UFC offer him fights. He accepts the fights. It's up to him to go out there and win. I know that last Mario Batista loss still, you can tell by his body language. I'm not nowhere near fluent in Portuguese, but you can tell by his body language when he was asked that question that he has a hint of English, because when someone mentioned Batista, you could see him grimace a little bit. You can see that one is still stinging for him. So that's going to really light a fire under Jose Aldo to come out and perform here in Montreal, in Canada, a place where he's undefeated. He hasn't been defeated in Canada yet, and he's coming in against Montreal's own Eamon Zahabi. I think, honestly, if you're not excited about this fight, Shawnee, you're not human. I'm really looking forward to this one, and I think it has a good place on the card as well. And Eamon deserves this. Really nice guy, always open and honest with his answers as well. And I'm excited to see if he can kind of get over the line against Jose.
Looking forward to it. As I said, we're tight for time. A busy fight week as always. Just a quick run through the rest of the card. Alexa Grasso against Natalia Silva. Obviously, that's a big fight for the division as well. Natalia Silva wins that. She's probably the next in line, if not very, very close with it. Unfortunate Benoit Saint-Denis against Joel Alvarez fell out. Kyle Poplek comes in instead. A lot of people expect Saint-Denis to win that one big. We've Mike Malott on the card. Jessica Andrade against Jasmine Jasovicius. Massive fight for Jasovicius. She wins that. She puts herself in line for the title as well. Bukowskis and Kutalaba is a big hitting one. So is Bruno Silva and Barrio. A lot of people talking about this Navajo Sterling as well coming in. And Ireland's own Brad Katona opening up the card. What are you most looking forward to, Ian? We'll end it on this. Who's taking your fancy on the undercard, let's say?
touching briefly on Alexa Grasso and Natalia Silva, I think it's a very interesting fight to see where both of these fighters are at. Obviously, Alexa coming off that title loss wants to throw herself back into the mix, and Natalia Silva has been ever impressive on her run up and deserves this opportunity. Is she good enough to get over the line? I think I'm very interested to see. That'll be an interesting stylistic matchup that'll play out on the feet there, I think. I'm very interested in the rise of Mike Malott, who faces Charles Radecki. Charles Radecki has kind of turned this into a USA versus Canada type thing, kind of highlighting Trump and the 51st state and all that. He wants to be the bad guy and live behind enemy lines. And he came out and gave a good media day chit chat today. Likes to be the bad guy, likes to ruffle a few feathers. Pressed me on a couple of things when I asked him as well. So, he got to put his he got to let his fist do the talking though on Saturday night. But Malott coming off that first loss to Neil Magny won in Edmonton. The pressure of trying to get back in the win column is off. But he said to me today, their next fight is always your most important fight, and he's definitely tunnel vision there. Those two boys are going to start banging, and I'd be surprised if that one went all 3 rounds. Jasudavicius versus Andrade. Big rise up through the rankings for Jasudavicius, and this is a huge fight against a really tough opponent. I said to you at the start, I thought Jessica Andrade looked really well, looks in really positive form, doesn't look to be drained from the weight cut or anything like that. And this is an interesting stylistic matchup. I asked Jasudavicius, she went over to Thailand, and I said, was part of the reason for that, the fact that, you would have watched Jessica Andrade fight similar fights like this where, she does have an ability to dictate where the fight goes. She has good takedown defense. Obviously, Jasudavicius is known for taking fighters down, grinding on them, doing damage, getting them out of there. But, she's going to be dealing with a very tricky predicament if Jessica Andrade can stop those takedowns. And if Jasudavicius is forced to strike with Andrade, Andrade carries definitely more power from what I've seen in recent history anyway, and that could make things very, very interesting in that fight. So all comes to all, it's going to be a good night in Montreal on Saturday night. I'm buzzing for a press conference tomorrow. We've got the Q&A then and the weigh-ins, Q&A with GSP on Friday, and of course the big night on Saturday. I'm buzzing to be here, buzzing to be a part of it, and I'm very excited to see what happens on Saturday night.
They'll all be saying SevereMMA, Baze, Mech on Saturday night. Let me bang, bro, and Montreal, and we'll have a great night. UFC 3 on 5. Check out all of Ian's work over on the SevereMMA YouTube. Check out all our stuff on Patreon as well. And with that, we have the end of the UFC 3 on 5 preview show. And from me, Sean, here in West Limerick, and Ian all the way over in Quebec, Canada.
There's a steak that's going to fucking get it now in about an hour's time. I'm starving.
I had nice Wagyu today off the fucking grill. It was absolutely delicious. Go and enjoy that, Ian. We shall both bid you adieu, and we will see you for more content later in the